Welcome to Three Steps. This is the second part of a three-part interview with Danny Burbol, and he has a company called Grow Wealth Within, and he retired at 38. And the company he has is all about helping you and his friends and everybody else learn to retire using your investment portfolio, how to invest properly. And the reason he started the company, because retiring at 38, he realized that it's kind of boring, being the only one retired when all your friends are working a 9 to 5. So in this interview, he goes over his story a little bit, and which is pretty exciting stuff and interesting when you think about this. He moved out and started his first salaried job, his career, at 19 as a video game programmer, right? Pretty impressive. And at that age, he was very clear on his life, and he's like, I don't care what you think about me. I'm here because I deserve it. And he proved it over and over again. And there's a really, really fun story about age and ageism in there that I think you're going to enjoy. Moving right along, we moved into brought it back. We brought it back to the conversation from the first one. And I asked him straight up, what is wrong with masculinity? And he gives a really great answer. And he kind of wraps up any confusion you may have had. He gives a really clear explanation of his point of view of what masculinity is and where the ride that he's on right now. Additionally, for the latter part of the conversation, we moved into what he does, investing, and how he got to this place of teaching investing. And it all started with a simple realization he had earlier on in his 20s, that if I lose my job, I lose everything. And so that was the catalyst for him. That was the thing that changed everything for him, to figure out how to invest and how to do it right, and the road that he went on. And he shares with us a little bit of that story and gives some suggestions. All right, we'll see you inside.
I ended up doing a lot of things at a young age. So all I knew at that point in time was I didn't want to stay stuck in this house, stuck in this lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And school was the way I was going to get out. And for that reason, I threw myself into my studies and followed my dreams, which were video game programming. Mm. And I basically graduated high school at 17, graduated college at 19, got my first professional salaried position when I was 19. Oh, wow. And so I've always been younger than all the other guys. Mm. And part of that experience, I lost the need to show off. I don't care what you think of me. I'm here because I earned it. Yeah. And that feeling stuck with me. Mm. So I hope more people can find that feeling of just being centered on who you are and being enough, and not having other people's opinions affect you.
Yeah. So not having other people's opinion affect you. What's the value to that for you?
Oh, for me?
Yeah.
So whenever I get in a situation where I realize I'm letting other people's opinions hit me, it's almost like I'm being judged. I'm comparing myself to them, or I'm letting them compare me to something else. And in the end, the thing that has always been the best for me is comparing myself to myself. Am I getting better at whatever I'm doing compared to anybody else? So I find that letting other people's opinions kind of seep in really just steals me away from that and gets me off in the weeds mentally as far as what am I doing with my life, instead of I can't wait to do these things with my life.
Right. So yeah, that's valuable. That's actually a great lesson. So you got your first salary job, like a proper job, at 19.
Yeah. In fact, I used to lie about my age.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
I used to tell guys who were twice my age how to do things. Mm-hmm. Not in a mean way or anything like that, but they would come to me asking questions. How do I use this coding language? How does this C++ work? What is this inheritance? Mm-hmm. And I would just tell them the answer. Well, you need the scope operator. Mm-hmm. And they'd go, oh, what's that? And I would explain it, and they'd say, okay, great, and they'd run off and do it. And then a week later, they found out that I was 19, and they stopped listening to me.
Oh, mother.
So,
those bastards.
In the end, I started lying about my age. I said I was 24.
Yeah.
And I was 24 for 4 years.
That's great. It seems to me like you have an aversion to the man conversation or to the masculinity conversation. Yeah. Let's dig into that a little bit. What does that mean to you? What's wrong with masculinity?
Nothing's wrong with it. So thank you for asking that question.
Yeah.
However, when I was younger, I did run into the whole masculine side of things in a negative way, which means I ran into a lot of bullies. And I tuned in pretty quickly that I didn't feel like the masculinity that they were pushing was that manly. I felt like they seemed insecure to me, and they were just puffing themselves up. And it just didn't jive with me.
Right.
So I was like, I don't feel the need to do that, is kind of what it came down to.
Okay.
And the way I've explained it to some people is, when you have no money, you want to find the fanciest clothes to wear, to go to the club, to drive up in the nicest car, right, to have a gold watch and all this stuff. When you have money, like a lot of it, you kind of just don't even go to the club.
Yeah.
You just chill at home in your sweats and watch TV with the person you love, right? Like, so it's kind of interesting that when you have something, you don't spend all your time trying to convince everyone you have it.
Right.
And so at the time, masculinity really turned me off because it just seemed like a bunch of bros and that sort of nonsense. And as time has gone by, I've started to realize that, no, there definitely is a masculine quality that demands respect, as far as realizing that as a man, we have certain qualities that only men have,
Right.
and to embrace them.
Right.
And part of that is using those qualities, whether they're skills or just literally strength, height, whatever, using them, for lack of a better word, for good. Part of having anything is making sure you're using it in a way that's helping people.
Yeah.
So for me, a big part of using your masculinity well is getting out there and helping the little guy, right? And standing up for people and things like that. Because if for any reason they can't stand up for themselves, then give them a nudge. You know, be on their side. Sometimes you just got to stand behind somebody to get them to stand up for themselves. So
okay, that's a really good clarification. So do you still harbor negative views about masculinity, or now is this where you live in your view of masculinity?
To be quite honest, I'm currently learning a lot and exploring a lot about my own masculinity, because
everyone does, right?
Yeah,
it doesn't stop.
Because I realized I kind of put it on hold for so long. I was just not interested. I felt like, well, I'm just being an adult, being responsible, things like that, and the masculinity side of things always reminded me of big jerks or douchebags or bros or these people who were trying too hard. And I realized in the last 2 years, like, I've got a negative outlook there, and I've been digging into it and saying, okay, well, what is it that I'm worried about? Am I worried about being seen like that? Am I worried about being seen as someone who's, say, disrespectful or a lower self-worth and things like that? And the answer is, well, no. I mean, I feel great. I've got a lot of success in my life, and there's no reason why I should be kind of ducking away from embracing my more masculine qualities.
Yeah.
So, and it's funny, the thing that actually did it for me, my girlfriend, who you know, she turned to me one time in the middle of just fooling around and playing, and she says, something along the lines of, you kind of flirt like a girl.
Wow.
Seriously.
Okay.
And I said, I don't know. I don't even know how to respond to that.
Yeah.
And ultimately, she said, well, you're less direct, you're less dominant, you just kind of flow with it, and you're more inviting rather than forceful. And I said, well, if that case, it sounds like a compliment.
Yeah, totally.
She said, it is, but also, could you just grab me once? So there's something here I'm missing.
Right.
So I've been digging into a lot more of that lately and just realizing, no, there's a whole side of masculinity, which you might call dominance, which also looks wonderful on a female. And it gets mistaken as being a man.
Right.
But I feel like it's a role that a man or a woman could play. And it's as equally good to know as knowing how to just be flow with.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's awesome, man. Thanks. This is the conversation I want you guys to hear. Yeah, totally. No, legit. Because, like, for example, if you're a guy coming up and you're really in your flowing state, right, your flow energy, that for me, that's very masculine because when I'm surfing, that's perfect. When I'm working, that's perfect. When I'm, in the middle of doing a thing and I'm no longer thinking about the thing and I'm in the flow of the thing, that's the work. That to me is mastery.
Yeah.
And so that's very masculine. And there's a way that growing up, we come from an era of masculinity is bad, masculinity is wrong, being a man, tear it down, and shaming. And it's like, but wait a minute. I still have genitalia between my legs that dictates that, check, I am a man.
Yeah.
And my mindset puts me in the same place of, check, I'm a man. So along with being a man comes masculinity. So defining masculinity for oneself is ultimately the purpose of this conversations that I'm doing here on the channel. And it definitely is. It's great to engage with men when they're still admitting to themselves, I'm figuring it out.
Yeah.
Because I don't think there's an end to this figuring it out conversation. I don't think that, one day things go perfect for you and you slip into your groove and decide, no, I'm a masculine man and I do things right. Ha ha. Because that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Right? We're figuring it out as we go along. So to hear you discuss it this way and on camera is just beautiful. So thanks, man. Thanks for sharing.
No problem. It's actually kind of interesting because when my masculinity ran into another man's masculinity, like younger in life, in situations where there's like butting heads, for example, I was in a bar one time and I had a female friend who was just chilling at the bar and some guy was basically giving her a hard time. So I just kind of came up to her and I said, hey, do you need any help here? And she said, please. And so I just put my arm around her and we walked away. And this guy wanted to fight me so incredibly bad.
Yeah.
And I basically just said, why? Like, nah, no thanks.
Yeah.
And the masculinity that I threw at him was, I have nothing to prove here. And if you want to fight, go fight someone else. But no thanks, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
And it was crazy just how it diffused him in a way he had never seen before.
Right.
And
And that's totally masculine. That's fucking awesome. That's great, man. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for sharing that story. That's
Sure.
fantastic. I know you as the guy that's on my head. You're the guy that retired young and is like helping his friends get out of working for a living. Well, not working for them, but basically investing well and being smart. And you're the one teaching people. So if you would like to share on this topic a little bit, would you like to tell the guys a little bit about maybe how to be smarter with their money?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately what I learned was when I was 25, I was living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
And I was happy to be a software engineer, so I was making pretty good money. I had a lot of toys, things like that. But if I lost my job, I would lose everything. And for that reason, I stopped one day and said, what am I doing? I've got more money, I make more money than my mom and my dad combined.
Oh, wow.
And I'm also in more debt. I'm living the same way. If I lost my job, I would lose everything. And I remember my parents saying the same thing.
Yeah.
And it occurred to me that everything I know about money, I learned from my parents, and my parents were not talking about it.
Yeah.
And so I decided I need to start looking into this, and I need to talk about it. I just start talking to people. So my number one for money is always just start talking to people. And you'll start to realize that we're all in the same boat. A lot of us look around and think, that guy over there, he's doing way better than I am. And in reality, he's in the same boat. He's probably in just as much debt, and he doesn't want anyone to know. And because you don't want anyone to know, because you think other people are doing it better, you get the shame. And it's this vicious fear cycle that happens that gets us all to be quiet about money.
Yeah.
And so the first thing to do is to really start talking about it, to get out of it. So for me, at age 25, I realized I was doing it wrong. There has to be a better way. And I went looking for a better way.
Oh, right on.
And that's how I discovered Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, and a lot of just investment in real estate, clubs, and things like that. And I really just got to it. I put my nose to the grindstone, get out of debt, paid off one card, and then they started falling like dominoes. And just putting things away, pay yourself first. There's so many neat little tools that I learned early on.
Right.
That one day I just looked around and said, wow, I've got this big lump of money sitting here that I'm supposed to be investing. Maybe I should go buy something.
Yeah.
And it took me about a year to buy my first duplex. But from there, I made a bunch of duplex mistakes.
Yeah.
and just kept going.
Yeah.
Just kept getting bigger investments, then kept going wrong. You learn new lessons, which prepare you to get something bigger.
Yeah.
What's funny is I remember at the time I was engaged, so I had my fiance's parents over one time, and I showed them my plan, and it involved, I'm going to buy this duplex. This duplex makes $500 a month, and they said, wait, if you could buy a duplex, how come you're not buying my daughter a house? So yeah, they didn't get it.
Yeah.
They did not get it.
Yeah.
But what's funny is, after I bought the third property, then we bought a house.
Yeah.
We had the option to buy the house in cash. And it wasn't until then that her parents got it.
Right.
And now they turn to us and they're like, so can you show us how to invest money so we can buy houses too?
Yeah.
And it's funny how in the beginning, everyone says you're crazy.
Yeah.
And then at some point, they believed in you all along and they want your help.
Yeah.
So I just think that's a funny anecdote.
It's a very funny anecdote, actually.
But what's amazing about money is that none of us were taught it in school.
Yeah.
And so that's the reason why I started to get behind teaching more people. And just talking to friends about little things, like I mentioned earlier, like just getting yourself out of debt, how you pay off your credit cards, how to pay yourself first, how to get an emergency fund and a cushion, like all these little things. It was working for them. And I realized, well, I need to find a bigger audience. I mean, the more people I can share this with, the more we can stop as a society finding ourselves in debt to ridiculous things.
Yeah.
Like there's a phrase in, I think, Fight Club. We buy things we don't want with money we don't have to impress people we don't like.
Yeah.
And it's true.
Yeah.
It's incredibly true.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful to break out of that and take it all the way to the spot where I retired, and then say, okay, I'm ready to start sharing this. I've beat on this whole system long enough that maybe I can break some other people out of this vicious loop.
That's awesome, man. Right on. Dude, that was
Awesome.
That was great. Wow.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. See you next one. Thanks for watching. So what do you think of the interview? Pretty interesting, right? Different point of view on masculinity. And what do you think of his story about how he learned to invest and get going? Well, leave a comment down below. Help us reach 100 subscribers. We're really close. We're really close right now. So help us reach 100 subscribers. Hit the subscribe button and get notifications by hitting the bell. Thanks for watching. And oh, hey, don't forget to join the Facebook group. We'll be having him on Sunday. And join the group and be part of the discussion. Ask him questions when he gets on it. All right. See you on Friday.